Okay, so for our S53 assignment, our song analysis, I chose to do a rap song, and the song is Warzone, and it's by a rap artist named T.I. And the reason for the song was it was released on the coattails of the social uprising of police brutality and the countless black men and some women who have been gunned down by police, along with um, some references of the damage in, the damages that institutional racism that have been embedded in society, but in the black community, most importantly. One thing that I noticed, as far as the social climate surrounding it, is there's like two sides to this things, two types of America, I guess you could say. Um, One, society, or the majority context of society, says law enforcement have a job to do. Um, um, they have a job to do. That's their justification. If you obey, if you follow the rules, you don't get hurt. It's that simple to them. And on the other side, you have African American people, such as myself, who are saying, well, it's not just that cut and dry, because when you obey the law, you still get shot, because it actually has nothing to do with obeying or not. It's actually your skin. And so in the black community, you're telling us just obey, and we're saying we are obeying, but we know it's about our skin color and our race that frightens them, or makes them feel some type of discrimination or fear or whatever about us. And we can't change our skin color, and we can't do anything about our skin to make you feel more comfortable or less vulnerable around us. And also, we have the side of saying, yeah, like, we have hundreds of years been oppressed, and so always being a minority, being the oppressed, of course it shapes how you view authority, how anxiety on our part that rises up in us when we think we might have been done wrong, and how should we respond. So that's the two sides. That's the significance I think I see in this song. Also, institutionally, just moves that have been made to abolish slavery, to cause us to or cause the social climate to change for black people, and it just hasn't been so, but has seemed that more has been embedded and put into it to cause us to stay oppressed even longer. So that's the significance to me around this song, Warzone. Um, um, so yeah, that's that part. Moving on. This song reveals, what does it reveal about culture? Well, the chorus, and I'll read it to you. Can't you see we living in a war zone? Guess you don't notice when you living in it. Like every weekend, it's a man down. Ain't got no pity for the innocent, so I'ma represent it. Dedicated, tell 'em, hands up, can't breathe. Hands up, can't breathe. Hands up, can't breathe. Hands up, can't you see we living in a war zone? The chorus refers to the cultural norms of constant violence, police brutality within black communities. The people there have become used to this form of treatment, and it's been used to this sort of treatment, so it's normal to them. And that's what I think of at the first part of the verse, where it says, "Can't you see we're living in a war zone? Guess you don't notice it when you living in it." And so in some black communities, they live in it constantly. That, yeah, it becomes a normal thing, and people do become desensitized and just not unaware of it, but used to it, and not socially accepted, but yeah, kind of accepted as, like, yeah, that's how the hood is, or that's just what the street life is. Cops come through and do what they want to do. Just a little side note, there's another rapper, Lil Wayne. He was asked about Black Lives Matter, and his response, it was a long response, and you can Google it. It's out there right now. He says, if a nigga got shot by the cops, must have been a good reason. That to me again just adds into the chorus with what T.I. was saying. Can't you see we living in a war zone? Guess you don't notice it when you're living in it. Is he, Lil Wayne, just like T.I. grew up in rough neighborhoods. Lil Wayne's from New Orleans. T.I. is from Georgia, Bankhead, which has some rough neighborhoods as well. And even though they're both rich now or whatever, even Lil Wayne's ideology is of saying like, well, if the cop shot him, he must have had a good reason, because that's what is normal there. For cops to come in and assert that sort of authority and be given the right to shoot someone, and well, hey, it must have been a good reason. He can testify that there are some like bad things going. My hair is kind of messed up here. Sorry. Going on in the neighborhood. So that's his view on it, and he didn't really seem to think anything was wrong with it. The language, the language of the song speaks to a woke, conscious community. I think I mentioned it in my hair, my advertisement analysis. We're talking about just in the Black community being woke. That's what it's called, being woke, or being conscious, which is funny because we talked about the collective conscience. But when you're woke or when you're conscious is when now you start to see the oppression, start to see where our society as a whole has failed the Black community, or where we have failed our own communities in the ways that we have, or what we have in our own community assigned meaning and value to, and what's really important in having us to wake up and really see what is really important here. And is that part of it? Is that why we're losing so many of our youth to gang violence, or being shot in the street, or young people getting pregnant in our neighborhood? The literacy rate, prison, well, that's another story. But things like that is like, yeah, let's wake up, let's be conscious. So culturally, it's speaking to being woke, to being conscious, to the what's going on in our community. Also, the song is speaking to the ideology of racism is over, with Dr. King. That is on the other side. That is like an objection for the majority context. White people say to us, oh, racism is over. Dr. King, you have rights now. And it's like, no, but it's changed now. People in that govern these institutions of law, religion, all these things are weaving it into those institutions to the point that you can't come out and call someone a nigga no more or anything like that. But we'll get them in other ways. And so the song kind of speaks to that too. And it's got Dr. King, Abe Lincoln asking where the freedom at. This ain't no equality. So things that they worked for, to abolish slavery, to break down segregation, to civil rights movement, all of that was done to bring equality. And there's this thing out there, oh yeah, you're equal now. We can eat at the same lunch counter now. We can use the same bathroom. We can go to the same schools. Oh, I'm not your master anymore. Such as Abe Lincoln fought to abolish and knew the Civil War. And we would think by now, it'd be like, we should see equality, but we do not see equality. But for white people, they do, by just those two things happening, and like the rest of history doesn't matter. So that verse speaks to that ideology of everything got fixed with Dr. King and everything got fixed with Abraham Lincoln, and it just really isn't true. Moving on. What values are assigned institutionally? I found there's like four institutions that are spoken to in this song: religion, law, politics, and business. Politics and government and business. And on the religion tip, there is a verse that says, "Tell my grandma, go on with all that praying. If it's a God and He is in the sky, He looking down, He understand. I'm just a man and I'm wrong for revenge." And this song actually, that verse um, critiques religion. It doesn't specify Christianity, but I'm willing to bank on that it is Christianity, since Christianity is a hegemonic ideology. I am a Christian, so I struggle calling it that because I believe in the scriptures and stuff. But it's a dominating ideology in our culture, and it is everywhere. And so this song critiques religion, and I would say Christianity. I'll read the verse again. Tell my grandma, go on with all that praying. If it's a God and He in the sky, He looking down, He understand. I'm just a man and I'm wrong for revenge. So he's saying to her, go on with all that praying, because that is not working. It's not that it's not working, but it's not enough. And it critiques religion. It's like, yeah, there has to be more. That we need to be doing something different to make change. And traditionally, Christianity has been the backbone of survival for African American people, dating back to slave time. Um, um, I could, and I meant to. There are some awesome Christian slave hymns that are very Christ centered, and just you could just hear the lament in some of the words of just that desire to finally be free, and how there is freedom in Christ, and worshiping God and through Jesus Christ is one of the ways in which they were able to let go of some of the hurt and the pain and anguish they were experiencing during slave time on up through civil rights, Jim Crow era, up till now. And it is a tradition. It is a norm for Black people to believe in God. Um, there's this thing, like if you have a grandma, and it's in Black culture, their big thing, grandmas is like, oh, just take it to the Lord in prayer. You just take it to the Lord in prayer. And to me, T.I. is exuding some of that frustration. It's like, well, okay, I can take it to the Lord in prayer, but what about it's still happening right now? What do we do about right now? And yeah, it's a frustration. I say it's speaking to this institution because it's hard to find Black atheist people. It really is. And um it really is. A friend of mine from high school, actually I talked to him not that long ago, and this is just one person, so this I guess would be more of a symbolic interactionist type um piece of evidence, anecdotal, I guess. But he was talking to me a little while ago, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm ready to get married. I'm ready to settle down and everything." And I was like, "Oh, great. Well, what's the problem? What's going on?" He's like, he said, "I want to marry a Black woman. Like, I love Black women, and that's who I find attractive and beautiful." And I was like, "Okay, that's great." And he's like, "I have a problem." I was like, "What?" He's like, "I'm an atheist." And I was like, "Oh, you didn't even have to say anymore." I was like, "Oh, yeah, you do have a problem." It's because and you could be a Black person and not even be in the church, like not even be a committed member to the church, but it's more of like an agnostic view, like, yeah, you don't, or a superstitious view, like you do not go against God. You cannot. So for a Black woman, for him not being able to find a Black woman, because I don't have the statistics on it or anything, but being a Black woman and just growing up in church and seeing the church filled predominantly with women, worshiping God. Yeah, it's pretty hard to find a Black woman that is okay marrying a guy that doesn't believe in God. So that's as far as religion. I noticed there was also let's see here. Yeah, so that's how it critiques that, and then the law and the politics and the government, I found, kind of ran together, because the laws and um, political leaders help pass the laws, and then you have your government that hears the voice of the people and whatnot. But it was in the song. It attributes the institution of law, politics, and government as unlawful, broken, subjective, petty. I'm sorry, I gotta throw it in there because petty, um, strong but weakened, and unjust. And just to go through that, the song kind of critiques the law, politics, government, institution, um, because it gives is saying that instead of protecting people, it gives a license to police officers and other governing officials to break the law. They make the laws so they're able to bend them and break them to their will, to continue to institutionally suppress Black people in these areas. On some of the cases you hear come out that came some of the cases that have came out, with people passing away from being killed by the police. There's always been this confusion of, okay, you need to execute this command, but police have time to give two commands, and then it's like, well, which one do you first? And if you do one, and it's like, well, I thought I told you to do this, and if they forget, is there's like, so there's this communication error, I think, in the anxiety of the moment on both parts, but also on the police being already uneasy about having to confront a Black person as it is, doesn't really help their focus on exactly what did you tell him to do, because and I forget his name, and I'm so sorry. I hate when I forget people's names, especially when it comes to this. This seems so dishonoring. But in one instance, um, he asked the gentleman, the officer asked him to get his license out. He said license and registration. He asked him, gave him two commands of some sort. He went to go do one. He's like, well, what are you doing? What are you, can't you? And he's like, well, you told me to do this. And he was like, no, I didn't. And on the video, you can hear him asking him to do this. And the police are able to shoot someone and then go into a court of law and be able to say, well, I fear for my life. And there are laws that are very broad and that give room to police officers to make mistakes with human lives. And the problem is you don't see them make those mistakes a lot with white people, or you see them make these mistakes a lot with Black people. And so that's what I get out of the song here as far as law. And then the politics, when I said it's strong but weakened, again, the verse about Abraham Lincoln and Dr. King asking where the freedom at, this ain't no equality. Coming out strong, Abraham Lincoln, although I know he had slaves, and I've heard that he felt a certain type of way. He really was just doing it for political reasons or whatnot. But even still, he did work substantially to abolish slavery, along with countless others. And then Martin Luther King comes along. So coming out strong, but after that, being met, each of those times met with stern, violent objection. Civil War, I mean, to abolish the slavery, they had to break out into a civil war because there were people that did not want to change were unwilling to accept the change of the society and what is normal now. The norm was to have an owned slaves as property, and they counted for nothing, and they were evil, they were whatever. And then now you're saying they have a right to be free, and you're telling people who have this for generations owned plantations and had slaves and been nannied and raised by slaves as mammies or whatnot, and now you're telling them like, oh no, they're actually with me, they're equal to me, and that is huge. That is a huge social norm to try and circumvent, and therefore resulting in the Civil War. And there's a gap there because um, there is a gap there from the past as far as the politics and the government and how they actually viewed us, and even still when the laws show like, yeah, we are all men are created equal, and people not wanting to turn from that and willing to turn a blind eye to the law, turned political leaders unwilling to who wanted to hold on to, well, I'll accept that they're equal, but I refuse to give them their anything material or anything that could cause them to gain any economic or social stabilization or whatnot. And if you fast forward to now, T.I. is still saying we're still meeting those same objections. When a black person is killed and someone says Black Lives Matter, and I've been faced with this myself when I've even said Black Lives Matter, I'm automatically associated with the Black Lives Matter movement, and I'm a black nationalist, and I am race baiting, and it's like, no, I'm just saying Black Lives Matter. There are things in the Black Lives Matter movement, even if I don't see, even if I was a part of the Black Lives Matter movement, which I feel like I am because I'm black for one. I don't, just because I'm not out there on the street doesn't mean I agree. It's necessary. It's because our society has not, still continues to want to institutionally say with laws and their politics and the governing officials like, yeah, you guys don't really matter. And that's what T.I. is saying here. There's something wrong. He also, yes, I mean, he makes another statement on just about the breakdown of people striving. We just had an election. People wanting to get into governmental office, politicians trying to find that loophole to break into the political scene, and then how can I continue to carry out this systemic institutional oppression of the black people. Here's the verse. Heard it from a buddy who took for the fall for Watergate. The war on drugs was just a war on us. Give us all these guns, give us all this dust, change all them laws, lock all of us up. Went from Freeway Ricky on to BMF, which is Free Meech. And there's a documentary on Netflix right now called 13, and it talks about the prison to pipeline, the prison to pipeline ideology thing that's been manifested in the total institution of the prison system. And the war, it starts out talking about the war on drugs, how and you have the testimony of people on here with the Reagan administration. Heck, I think even they had some people on there through the Clinton administration when Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton was running for president. They said, it is not socially normal anymore to call someone a nigger or say things outright as it was in Martin Luther King's time or before. So now we can't say that because you'll get in trouble for that. And this is on the documentary, is that we get in trouble for that. So we'll change the wording and we'll say, well, drugs. We need to fight the war on drugs. Drugs are becoming so outrageous. So what you see is a collective, you see a assumed issue of drugs, and then no one's checking the stats on these. No one's checking anything to see if there really is even a problem with war on drugs. And what happened was there was cocaine and crack that came on the scene. Well, cocaine is very expensive. It's pure. I've never done it, nor do I want to, but I've watched movies and seen some documentaries to know, like, yeah, it's really expensive, and it costs a lot. So where would you find cocaine? In white, prominent society, of people of society. And then here, crack came out for people, the drug addicts, that could not afford that. So here you have them using crack. And so they said the war on drugs, crack cocaine, that's what they zoned in. They didn't focus on the cocaine that was plaguing all of the white teens in anywhere from the suburbs to wherever, but they picked crack cocaine specifically because that it was in the minority community. So we need to fight the war on drugs. And T.I. through those verses trying to call that out, like, yeah, that was a sham. It was something used to imprison us more and detain us and to oppress us more and to make sure that we were very much still oppressed and controlled. It let's see here. Yes, I talked about that. Sorry, I lost my place for a minute there. And then, business, I almost forgot. On the institution of business, there is a verse here where he said, what is it? Oh, then hip hop came. That's when we got rich because white kids gravitated to it like all of us did, and that's when they got slick. Invented technology to take our shit, diluted all of the artistry. So then you talk about the institution of business. So now you have a community, or you have yes, the black community who has found an outlet in music, and we've all heard the songs. And I know we've listened to the Black Eyed Peas song, Marvin Gaye. I have older brothers and sisters, and they listen to Public Enemy and people that were speaking out on these social injustices. NWA was another group with Ice Cube and Dr. Dre and Eazy-E, and they're speaking out. And then so here's hip hop, like, that is coming full throttle, and now the women's like, okay, well, they're good at music. They have rhythm, they have beat, they're talented. This is good money, so we'll make the record labels. We'll provide all the monetary stability, and we'll say, oh, come to my record label. We'll take care of you. We'll take care of you, and pretty much being education not being high in black community, another institution, and literacy and whatnot, and family dynamics, and affecting it. And you had young artists going to these labels and just working for them for very little and not receiving hardly not the right pay for the music that they were putting out, and basically being robbed. And then there's the idea of that just whitewashing hip hop and creating this mainstream hip hop where it's all about just selling the records, and that still is going on today. And T.I. is voicing the concern, like, yeah, like, you guys created an industry within a business industry within hip hop that is mainstream, and that's not real hip hop. And so there's artists that go back and forth. I know my daughter, she she likes, she'll listen to some of the rappers today, and I'm like, there's an artist, Designer, and he sings Panda. I don't know if you heard it, like, Panda, Panda, Panda. I got brought in a red, and you can barely understand them. And so people my age, I'm 33, are like, what is he saying? But then again, people said it when I was coming up, like, no one, my family didn't understand what Dr. Dre said. Like, he's not saying anything. For some reason, your ears just, like, turn off or something. But T.I. here is expressing the frustration, being an artist, being about real music, real hip-hop, being influenced by those pioneers of hip-hop, KRS-One, LL Cool J, Big Daddy Kane, MC Lyte, Salt and Pepper, you name it, and having those influences, and then having white society, the majority context of society, come in and provide all the money that none of the black folk had and say, yeah, we'll make you rich, we'll make you famous. And it's frustrating. And just as a side note, as part of the consciousness and the woke piece of our culture, that T.I. is saying here, wake up, don't you see? We're living in a war zone. These are the attacks on our people that are being made. Is what had we assigned meaning and value to? Money, cars, clothes, jewels, girls, guys. Those things meant more to us than getting that education and getting a job and um, um, striving for more moral life. Just think it was just about fast money, fast cars, whatever, girls, guys, whatever it was, and it wasn't much. And it caused us to have to be under them when it came to the business industry of hip hop music. Okay, let's see here. Where was I? Okay, I think I answered. Okay, yes. And so the last question, how does the song, just as like a summary of the song, um, for one, how did it show cultural message? Um, this song, this particular song, planted a heartfelt emotional interpretation of relevant issues to the black community by creative use of language. And, and I wanted to go in here more just as an example. He has, in part of the chorus, it says, hands up, can't breathe, hands up, can't breathe. Can't breathe was Eric Gardner when he was strangled. Hands up was the Michael Brown case in Ferguson where, did he have his hands up? Did he not? Trayvon Martin, imagine Trayvon asking why you followed me. Phil threatened, hit him and whip him. That's when he shot him down. Do that to a grown fucking man. Drop where you stand. He's referencing people that have been succumbed to police brutality. This goes to that white boy that ran in the old church. I hope you get slow murked and they torture you slow first. Ran in our place of worship to slaughter our grandma. Won't go kamikaze for that. Well, what would you die for? Hold up, I'll wait. And again, that is just speaking to these lyrical verses. Again, reinforce a heartfelt, emotional interpretation of this is what we're living in right now. This is what this is what we're succumbed to every day when there's violence against a black person simply because of the color of their skin and because of that systemic ideology that black people are lesser than. A song of this nature will be passed down through generations and generations as a written artifact of history in a time period, like a story. And I remember, and I'm sure you do too. I remember being in middle school or in high school, I think it was when Tupac came out with the song Changes, and he was like, will I live to ever see a black president? And he didn't. But it was like deep because even then he's like, will we ever rise to an occasion where we could be in a place of power? And a friend of mine who actually did go to middle school, he wrote on his Facebook page today, he's like, yeah, they're playing some Tupac, is spitting, changes, spitting for what we're embarking on today with President-elect Trump as in office as our president. And so that's why I say for the black community, songs of these natures are kind of just kept so secure to reference as a historic timeline. It's an artifact. Our music, our hip hop, it's everything to help show a history of like what have we been through and what we continue to go through, and that gives us a framework to validate our and justify why we're saying this is a systemic problem, and that's what um, this song kind of brings forth. And I mentioned giving sentiment to those that are killed. And it sheds light institutionally on the broken institutions, such as I spoke of earlier, the law, the politics, the government, the business dealing with hip hop, religion, and in the Black community, religion not necessarily being something to live by, but just something that we do. It is more of a ritualistic thing, not really caring about the end goal of what it actually produces, but just going through the motions, going to church on Easter, going on Christmas, go with your grandma, and not really embodying anything that Christianity actually does hold. And so yeah, he was shedding light, showing critique, and attributing negative attributes to these institutions. They're pretty much broken and set up to cause us problems. Yeah, so that's it. It's T.I. Warzone, and it's a really good song, and it came at a timely time, and I think it really helps hearing. I know for me personally, it helped hearing everything that I'm thinking put into paper like that. My only thing is, and I was talking to my husband about this the other day, is like, I was talking to my husband about this the other day, and it was like T.I. understands there is a part of our Black community that understands like this is a war zone, and what I struggle with is being that I am a Christian, getting the church and my fellow brothers and sisters in the Lord, Black, white, Asian, everyone, to see like, yeah, we're in the middle of a war zone, people. Like, while you're doing your little car rider lines and you're over here, family focused and not thinking about, we have the hope of the gospel, and if we believe that's true, why are we not expressing our love for people that are made in God's image when they are feeling oppressed or hurt and whatnot? And so I feel like it's hard for me to know, like, I'm a part of God's universal church that has been silent about racism, and that's been difficult. So, but this song has really helped me to affirm, like, yes, I feel these things, and to actually have someone that is so wonderful lyrically and creatively in interpreting the emotions that so many of us in the Black community and not and white people that are feeling, that are choosing to side with us, and hence being slanted by their own people too as well, to say like, yeah, this is sad and this hurts and this is exactly how I feel. And he's saying, yeah, let's rise up. And how, I don't know, but I know one thing is for sure is we need to rise up and wake up and see we should be focused on raising our families, finding good education, fighting for good education for our children. We need to help each other parent our children and where we're falling short, and come around that single mom whose son is running the streets and she just can't do it anymore. We should be coming together more and face the realization that together we stand, divided we do fall. And that's just like that's just my opinion. That's like the inside of the Black community, the conversations that I have with other Black people and white people that are conscious. And I can have that with you because you're conscious, you're woke. But I would be leery of having that conversation with some people that I'm like, oh no, you don't get it yet. So we got a lot more other things to talk about. But anyways, thank you for this opportunity. Bye.